Grieve joins us, former Conservative Attorney General and now co-chair of the People's Vote campaign. Morning to you, Mr. Grieve.
Good morning.
How significant do you think is this hardening of positions on the backstop?
I think it is significant because I have in the past heard it suggested, and not just in this country but actually elsewhere and in the EU, that there might be some possibility of compromise by the backstop being tweaked. And on the face of it, this entirely rules it out, which is always what I thought would happen.
There are people, though, who say, look, the Irish may blink. In other words, faced with the real prospect of no deal, faced by a Prime Minister who really means to do it, they may, in the end, shift their position.
I've no idea if they'll shift their position or not. I was over in Ireland last Friday, and I get the impression that the sorts of comments which were made yesterday are likely to harden their position.
And then what? Can Parliament really block no deal? Because, after all, MPs tried it recently and failed by a reasonably big margin.
I think we're talking about two slightly different things here. One is blocking no deal. Technically, that may be quite difficult, but as I've said on many occasions in the House over the last 12 months, if a government persists in trying to carry out a no-deal Brexit, I think that administration is going to fall.
So, in other words, not passing a law to block no deal, but a vote of no confidence, which the government would lose because Conservatives like yourself would vote against it?
Yes.
And do you think you'd have new recruits? Because we assume that some of those who've been loudest in the cabinet protesting against a no deal will find that they haven't got a job next week.
That may make a difference. I should emphasise, I think all Conservatives want to find a way out of this which avoids bringing down one's own administration. And if I could find a way, and I've been trying to find different ways of gently nudging a government in the right direction and away from no deal, I will take it. But at the end of the day, I think you're right. I think that by the end of next week, there are going to be more Conservatives who have indicated very clearly that no deal is unacceptable, and many of them will no longer be on the front bench.
So we've been talking to Dominic Grieve, yourself, and Oliver Letwin and others, and in future we'll be talking to backbench rebels called, Philip Hammond, David Gauke, Greg Clark and the rest.
They're going to have to speak for themselves, but certainly my impression, talking to colleagues in the House, is that if we get to a point where no deal becomes a real prospect, then there are going to be more colleagues who are opposed to it because they think it's really damaging for our country, in fact, catastrophic for its future.
And you argue that a referendum, another referendum, is the way forward. There's a big difference, though, isn't there, between MPs unhappy at no deal and MPs willing to vote for another referendum. Many of your colleagues have simply refused to do that.
I agree, and I can understand that many people are not going to want another referendum for a whole variety of reasons. I think our experience of referendums hasn't been a good one, and indeed in an ideal world I don't think I ever want to see a referendum again. But seeing that we had the 2016 referendum and its result, I think that we have to have another if we are to take a reasoned decision as to where to go next. And it may be that if we have a referendum, it won't go in the way that I want, but it at least offers a way out of this without, I think, a deepening political crisis, which is why Margaret Beckett and I have been putting this forward and will continue to put it forward. And I actually think that quite a lot of my colleagues know at the end of the day that it's going to be a choice between a referendum or a general election, and a general election, moreover, which may well not deliver any conclusive outcome and help us out of the crisis.
So you think, despite the fact that this Parliament has rejected a referendum on a number of occasions, there's still a chance they'll vote for it now?
Yes, I do. And I'm going to continue pressing it because I think it's the only sensible way out. As I say, the alternative is that we're going to end up with a general election. And the risk is that a general election sees probably a development of a four-party system, and how we then succeed in putting together governments which can take us out of the current crisis, I'm not very sure.
Dominic Grieve, thank you for joining us.